Hello, Tom. Hello, Daisy.
How's it going, Cam?
Welcome to the interval. That's Tom and Daisy's podcast. For those listening, you haven't heard Tom and Daisy's podcast. It's really entertaining. I highly recommend that you look it up.
Thank you.
So it's great to be here. I heard that you were coming and I was really excited. I've been watching your digital content for quite some time. I first saw one of your guitars here, must have been 2 years ago, the one that Ian Brown has.
Oh, right, yeah.
That was the first time you kind of came onto my radar, and I was very impressed with your work.
Thanks very much.
And through Dan, obviously, I've heard a lot about you.
Yeah.
Because Dan has just had delivery of a particularly interesting guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You care to tell us a wee bit about that?
Yeah, so I've just built Dan. I think interesting is the right word. It's certainly the most challenging project I've worked on to this point. It is a Model L, which is my large. L stands for large model guitar, but it's in a baritone configuration. It's a multi-scale instrument. So the scale length is 28 1/4 on the sixth string and 27 inches on the first string, sorry. And it is in Swiss moon spruce and Ovenkol, which is a West African hardwood. So that was an interesting guitar. We spent a lot of time figuring out which scale lengths to use and also versatility, because what's really cool about the guitar is that with medium gauge strings, you've also got a D guitar. So you've got the extra 2 frets below. If you capo at the second fret, it's a standard guitar with medium gauge strings on. Take the capo off, you've got the D guitar. You've got all the right tensions, and then obviously when you put baritone strings on it, it's a baritone guitar as well. So it's cool, and it's got all wedges and bevels and all that kind of thing on there as well. So it's cool.
It's worked out really well. It's a gorgeous instrument.
It was when Dan approached me about it, it was a little bit daunting. It was the first baritone or the extended range instrument that I'd built. And Dan is he's a stickler for detail, and he knows exactly what he wants. So it was complicated. There was a lot of back and forth. We really had to do a lot of research and make sure that what we came out with was going to fit the bill. So and fortunately he's into it. So I'm very happy about that.
So tell me about the feelings that go through your mind when you're taking a brand new instrument to your client who hasn't seen it. What kind of things are going through your mind?
Well, it's a really interesting one, and those delivering my first commissioned guitar was running the gauntlet of emotions. I always tell the story of having recurring nightmares in the week leading up to delivery. Turning up at the client's house and him being devastated by what I've built and threatening to do all sorts of horrible things. But I have some of my clients are very kind of hands off and just kind of pay the deposit and get in touch when the guitar's ready and just do your thing. And then I have other clients who are very exacting and have been dreaming up their instrument for, in Dan's case, best part of a decade.
Yeah.
So it really varies, and it also depends on the kind of relationship that's been fostered throughout the build process. Some clients, as I said, they'll pay a deposit and I won't hear from them until I start building, and other clients get very, very excited and want to be involved, and I'll get emails
Yeah.
all the time, you know, talking about different pieces of wood, and so you get a sense for how it's going to go, and I feel like the more engaged you are with the client and the more time you put into that client relationship, the more likely you are going to build something that they really love, and that kind of takes the pressure off. And but of course you're always going to be nervous, because you never know how they're going to react, and you never know with an acoustic guitar how it's going to sound until you put the strings on. So you invest so much time and energy into creating this thing that, you know, you do the job in the best way that you think you can, and it's always a bit of a gamble, but usually it pays off.
Well, I think it's like that with any kind of creative endeavour. You're never entirely sure how it's going to be received. You just got to have courage and just go for it.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here with Daisy as Tom's apprentice, and I heard you interviewed recently. In fact, Tom interviewed you on the interval, is that right?
Yeah. Tables turned.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of your backstory about how you came to become one of Tom's apprentices. How's that working for you? Are you enjoying it?
Hanging out with Tom all day, or the apprenticeship?
The apprenticeship.
Just kidding. They're both great. Pleasure and honour to be taught by someone so talented. It's pretty insane, and I kind of landed completely on my feet that he was looking for an apprentice, or he was looking for some help at the time that I was graduating university.
Yeah.
And it was completely, you know, it was like a match made in heaven at the time. It was just perfect. We got on super well, both passionate. My skills didn't lie in woodworking at that point, but I wanted to learn. So we operated on, I would help him out doing the things that I loved, so media and photography and documenting process, and you know, he was able to teach me as well. So it was pretty awesome. And now, because obviously I've been doing woodwork for about a year, he made me his formal apprentice.
Awesome.
And my build's coming along really well, I think. Massive perfectionist, but that's great, because it's changed how I look at everything and how I operate. And
So you hadn't really worked with wood before that?
No. I mean, my dad has a workshop. I had a workshop when I was growing up, and he wanted to be a carpenter and did that kind of thing. Then he became a musician. So, but so I was like aware of it, and you know, people who work with wood catch a bug for it, and I knew that, and I liked making stuff. Yeah. So, it was a very weird decision, but it was one that I just kind of knew would work. And it really has.
You knew the woodwork would work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Excellent.
And I was very lucky to find Tom, because you've probably seen online, his workshop isn't really what you'd expect a common woodworking shop to be. Like, it's immaculate, and it's an absolute joy to be in. So I've been very spoiled with my woodworking journey so far.
Well, I've been watching the content, as I said, the videos, the photos, the Instagram stuff, and it really stood out, because there are very few luthiers who actually do have such a successful social media presence, and it's just amazing the work that you do. I think it brings you to everyone's attention.
It's such a key part of the business, and it's, you know, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
To really put out content that is of the same quality as the instruments that we produce. And, you know, we really enjoy doing it. It's a really great way to connect with the community and to kind of, like you say, to actually advertise and get your message out there. But, you know, the Luthier community is a very, very close-knit one, and it's a very supportive one. And so I like to use social media as a way to try and give back to the community that's kind of supported me and inspired me for a number of years. It's and not only that, but it's a really great way to channel your creative energies into other avenues. So, you know, so it's a lot of fun. We really enjoy doing it.
Well, it comes across how well the two of you work together when we see you both on camera, having a laugh, and the sock incident with Juno.
Oh my goodness!
That was a great story.
Did you hear the climax of that story?
I was actually eating at the time.
Sorry about that.
That's quite all right.
There was a disclaimer. We did put a disclaimer.
You did. Yeah, I
that's
was
true.
fine.
Warned
I
you.
was fine.
But you know, like with any relationship, it doesn't come without extreme hard work. You know,
Yeah.
when I arrived, I was very immature, I think. We've both grown up a lot over the last year, because when I was entering his creative space, he wasn't used to that. You enter somebody's creative space and it's very difficult for that person to let you in. And I'd never worked one-on-one so intensely with someone before, and we had to really feel our way through. But as a result of that hard work, you know, it would have been easy for him to be like, I'm not gonna do this anymore, I want to be alone. But it's the importance of like passing on skill and really sticking it out, and you can actually forge something quite wonderful if you really stick with it.
You can, and I think to add to that, just the nature of the work that we do as guitar builders is often quite isolating. You know, you spend lots of time on your own in your studio, your workshop, whatever it might be. It can be quite unhealthy. You know, you're very kind of focused on what you're doing, and not only that, but you end up creating in a vacuum, and you get this kind of work blindness and kind of tunnel vision. And so for me, one of the revelatory aspects of having Daisy in the shop, especially with her limited experience as a woodworker, was that it was forcing me to think about things in a new way. You know, I think you can't fully understand something until you've explained it to somebody who doesn't have the first idea. But it also it kind of challenges you creatively, and it's great to have somebody to bounce ideas off, and somebody to kind of keep you honest. You know, so it's been really good for that. But like Daisy says, it's hard work. You know, we've got the workshop's 300 square feet. It's not massive. We're both very dedicated and passionate about what we do, so we both want to be in there all the time. And we have regular bust ups.
We do, but we're so good at but again, you know, it's why I say in the early stages we are very different people, and we hadn't worked out how to be around each other. You know, I'd literally just graduated university, very immature, well, relatively immature, didn't really understand the importance of creative space to people and like how invasive that can be. And so, you know, through a lot of like discussion, we were able to figure something out. Like when we do have conflicts now, we kind of just remove ourselves a little bit for the minute. Like I'll take a walk or something, and then we can approach it. But it wouldn't be this great, our working relationship, if we hadn't have had that time to feel each other's limits. And so, but as a result, I think it's something very precious now.
Well, it's lovely to watch as a potential client, I guess, or a fan. I don't know what I would be called.
A potential client. Let's go.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
That sounds good, Cass.
And it's not only entertaining. It's part of this weekend here that we're at the RMMGA gathering is to bring together guitar geeks of all shapes and sizes, or old farts, as Dan did. Dan tell you that story?
Yeah.
About his calendar alert. His phone went off, and one of the other attendees picked his phone up to charge it, and as he picked it up, the screen lit up, and his calendar notification came on the screen that said Old Farts Guitar Weekend. So you're here with the old farts, and it's wonderful to have you here.
Happy to be here, an honorary fart.
Yeah.
But bringing together players and luthiers and professional musicians and being ensconced for a weekend is just, it doesn't get any better.
It's very indulgent, isn't it? Just being allowed to be unashamedly nerdy about what you're passionate about.
And some of the little pockets of conversations that you stumble upon are just gold. At the dinner table or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's funny you use that phrase. I heard pockets of conversation. Mike Dawes yesterday we were doing Plucky Dip, and he walked through and he was like, all these pockets of guitars. And I thought that was really nice. Pockets of guitar music. It's just a really nice way of putting it, because it's such a this house is so, there's endless rooms and pockets of creativity. Just
amazing. I enjoyed your piano playing last night.
Which part? I
You
think
were playing
that might have been
the Cats song. Aristocats.
Yeah,
That was cool.
I have a few beers and I don't shut up about it. So
You're a cat lover then, are you?
No, I just absolutely love that song. It's like
It's a great song.
great, and everyone knows it whether they like it or not, because it's one of those ones that.
So there was you on piano, Mike Dawes beside you.
He was doing my bass line.
Doing your bass line, and Mark on his guitar.
Mark was very obliging.
Yeah.
He was like, "Not again, not again."
So Tom, you must have had a lot of experience from your apprenticeship with Irvin Samoji that you're able now to apply yourself in your own sort of working relationship, having been an apprentice yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that experience with Irvin was very intense. It was a very condensed training. 2 years working with the master, and it was all encompassing. I went over to California to learn to build guitars. And I had this kind of myopic focus. It was like, that's what I'm doing, that's what I'm here for. And I just really threw myself into it, kind of full throttle. And the great thing about the apprenticeship was that it was learning from Irvin, and kind of being immersed in that environment. But it was also, there was the camaraderie with the other apprentice. So I was there with Julian Gaffney.
Oh, yeah.
Leia Buendia was still in the Oakland area. And then, of course, Chris Morimoto, who's the shop foreman, he's been there for 10, 12 years. And so you're not just learning from Irvin, you're learning from the other apprentices. You're seeing their mistakes, their shortcomings, and learning from that. And you're also seeing their successes, and you're learning from that as well. But, it was a very holistic experience. We all spent long hours in the shop. And Irvin's teaching method is there's lots of theory that goes into it, and Irvin is very, he relies a lot on demonstrations and kind of, we would think about string dynamics, and Irvin was very good at using props to give real life examples of what was happening at a macro scale on the guitar. So, for example, sometimes he'd be trying to explain a concept to us about setup or whatever it might be, and or a string attack, and he'd say, right, well, let's go out into the parking lot, and he'd get a giant length of washing line and hang it from one end of the car park to the other end, and kind of blow up what was happening on a small scale with the guitar into a much larger kind of setup, so you could really kind of understand and have demonstrated just what was going on with the instrument, and just how he thought about what was happening. And he was always coming up with these like little demonstrations and anecdotes that were really useful for understanding how he thought about the guitar. So in terms of how I try to teach Daisy, I don't know, I think you're probably in a better position to explain how we go about the kind of instruction. And
I suppose I'm exposed to it all day, so I can watch. I'm more of a doer, so I do like to, when there's a new step which I've seen him do, I do like him to kind of watch me do it to find my feet, and I do need help with it. And by doing that's probably the best way that I learn, for sure. I take notes when I'm watching and come back to them, but I think the best way for anyone to learn is to just have, if they're lucky enough, like have somebody to watch what they're doing and like help them out the first time they do it. And then, in my case, it's like every step to building a guitar, and when that guitar's complete, then I'll still be watching him, so I can reinforce the steps, and then when I come back to do it again, it's like, okay, I've done this once, and from watching that another time, I realised that he also did this, and I suppose that's it. Just like also trial and error has a lot to do with it, whether you like it or not. That's always going to happen. For me, I think it's pretty much happened on most steps of the guitar, which is not ideal, but I think it's fine because, you know, you have to. While it's nice to be perfect, I'm sure it's not going to get you anywhere, really. Because
learning from mistakes is so important.
But obviously, there's a line, and you always say to me, like, I can't watch you just make mistakes. So that's where you intervene, and you're like, we're going to avoid this happening, because if you continue with doing what you're about to do, that. And he's very good at recognizing when I'm, for example, too tired, or when my concentration is slipping. So he'll be like, okay, we're just going to take a break, and what you were going to do is you were going to do this, and that would have happened. So, you know, when it's a big step, he intervenes, but sometimes he lets me do it, and then he's like, do you understand why that went wrong? And I say, I'm kind of tired. Yeah. And he's like, okay, well, you should have stopped, you should have sharpened that plane, and you should have been disciplined with myself. I think that's been one of the hardest parts for me to learn. Still, I'm making very, very simple errors because I've not quite got that discipline yet. And
it's the hardest.
That will always keep coming, that training.
It's the hardest thing, I think, to learn. It was the light bulb moment for me with working with Irvin was learning to be patient. Because making guitars is cool. It's really fun, and you know, you're just desperate to hear what it's going to sound like. And every time you complete a step, you're getting closer to that magic moment when you can put the strings on. And so the temptation is always to rush and to push forward. Mm. And so the hardest part is recognizing where your limits are and understanding when you're getting tired and when you need to just put the tools down, or when you need to take a break to sharpen a tool. Mm. And really kind of, you have to force yourself to do it, and it's a skill, being patient and disciplined. One of the hard parts about being a teacher and working on my own projects at the same time is that I can't help but have an ear out for what Daisy is doing all the time. Yeah. And so I'm always half listening to what she's doing, because you can always tell, for example, when a plane isn't cutting properly or when a scraper isn't sharp. And so it's very distracting. So it's a skill that I'm having to learn, to be able to kind of separate the parts of the brain. You know, I think, I'm not sure if it was you I was talking to yesterday, but you know, like when you're having a conversation with somebody in a crowded space, and then you overhear somebody else either mention your name or talk about something that you're also interested in, it's very difficult to stay engaged with the person that you're talking to when your ears are burning and you know something's happening in the periphery. And so that's like the analogy that I would use, is I'm trying to focus on, you know, doing some purfling and doing some delicate mitring, and I can hear Daisy like slipping with a chisel, or like, you know, trying to push a plane that isn't sharp. It's really, that's a skill that I've had to learn. Quite often I feel myself living vicariously through Daisy as well, because I remember what it was like when I was learning and how frustrating it was, and I remember the milestones that I hit, and I can't help but feel Daisy's frustrations when something isn't working for her, or, you know, conversely, when something goes right, I feel that. And it's emotionally very like strenuous, you know, and quite tiring. So,
but it must be rewarding as well in a lot of ways.
It absolutely. But it's something that I've had to adjust to, for sure.
Well, we're both teaching each other in that sense.
Completely, yeah.
Learning a person the way they learn, mm-hmm. and the way they don't, and what you must learn and what you.
Yeah. But it's great. It's been just as like you say, just as much of a learning curve for me as it has for Daisy, and I think I've certainly grown a person and as a maker. But, you know, another really useful thing for me has been, you know, I'll be working on something, and Daisy will kind of ask what I'm doing, and ask why I'm doing something a certain way. And those questions, it prompts thought that you're like, well, actually, why am I doing it like this? This is really convoluted and doesn't make any sense. And it comes back to what I was saying earlier about, you know, not truly understanding something until you've had to explain it to somebody who doesn't, it's the first time they've seen it. So,
Yeah, I've had a similar experience recently with teaching guitar.
Oh, really?
It's something I'd done little bits of here and there with friends and you know, friends of friends, but never formally. And I got a gig teaching high school kids recently, and it was rock school, which is an area of guitar I'd never explored. And it was incredible just how much I learned from studying that style, but then about myself, because I didn't know if I would be able to teach high school kids. I'd never done it. And I went in there, and what an experience, you know, in terms of rewards and having, as you said, having to be able to explain things that you just do without really a full understanding of why they work. And so it's been incredibly rewarding for me to do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And same with all this stuff, recording interviews, and you know, it's going to evolve. I'm going to get better at it. I'm really enjoying doing it.
I think for me, every video that I make, or every video that I should say we make, it's like something changes each time, and you learn stuff. Like, you know.
And it feeds into, there's cross-pollination. You know, the video work that we do, it feeds into the guitar work that we do, and it's using a different part of the brain. That's something that we're learning together, isn't it? The whole digital side of things, pushing each other and really analysing each other's photography and video and sound and why certain things work and why other things don't. And we're very much growing together with that, which is really nice, which is something which was kind of unexpected for me. I didn't realise just like how into the kind of video and kind of tech side of things I'd get.
You're awful. Like, you're so obsessed with it.
I really love it. Yeah, I really do
I think
love it.
It's natural in some ways for someone with that kind of focus, to use a photography term, to go into something geeky like that and go deep. You know, you're into your tools, your hand tools.
Yeah.
I've heard you speak of a Japanese rasp. And
Yeah.
the scraper's your favourite tool.
That's right. And
it's great to hear a craftsperson talking about the details like that and the passion they have for each component. And then you get into all this videography stuff, and it's like, right, let's go deep on that as well. And it's working, because the content you've been putting out is tremendous. It really is.
Really kind.
The one I watched of Daisy singing outdoors with the B-roll and the shaky camera and
that was an awesome video.
the ambient sounds of it, it was just beautiful.
We good?
Eden, she was perfect with her roses free of thorns. The time upon your hands can breed a paradise of scorn. And earth she still would tremble, but her insides would be burned like a stone that never tells a tale, 'cause she's never overturned. And you're oh so pretty, but I haven't seen you happy much today. And you're oh so lovely, but I haven't seen you going your own way.
So what's next for the pair of you? What have you got coming up?
The next big thing is we're heading out to Montreal to do the Sonor Guitar Festival, which I think is in its 3rd year. That's happening in September the 13th, weekend of the 13th. So very excited about that. Very excited to go out to Canada and get involved with some more geekery out there. Canada is where it's at for me, Luthiery wise. I think there's, especially the Montreal area.
Right.
Yeah, there's some really great builders, some really cool electric things happening there as well. Florian Schneider, who does Millimetrics instruments, just makes some like fabulous electric instruments, which I'm really into. Great design philosophy. And then we're gonna hang out in Montreal for a week and
Great.
do some stuff like this, speak to builders and go visit. I think the Mile End Guitar Co-op. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys. There's
Cool.
Indian Hill guitars and 52 instruments.
Great.
Yeah. So go see those guys. Might see if we can pester Mike Greenfield and see if he'll let us into the wood nest. Maybe I doubt it. To be honest. That's
amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, just getting busy, getting guitars ready for that. Well, we're doing these. We're really getting into doing these shop sessions, which is something we're having a lot of fun with those. So getting involved with our local kind of music scene. We've got Leeds is our nearest big city, and Leeds has got the music college there. So the music scene in Leeds is really awesome. So increasingly we're inviting young musicians to the workshop. They get to play my guitars, we record them, make a really nice video, and it's a really nice and interesting way to showcase my instruments, and to support local musicians and kind of help to spread that. So we've got 3 or 4 of those booked in for July. Some more in August and September, and that's we're really enjoying doing that. Getting my guitars into the hands of more people and getting them into the hands of people that might otherwise not even know that the boutique guitar world exists, and just seeing what people do with my instruments, outside of purely fingerstyle or whatever. That's really rewarding and it's good for us socially as well.
Oh yeah.
It means that we actually interact with other people besides each other and Gina.
Yeah, and Gina. The sock-eating dog.
The sock-eating Labrador, yeah.
Oh, I miss her.
Yeah.
I miss her so much.
Well, I'm really glad you came. This has been...
Yeah, it's been really nice. I didn't know
yeah.
what to expect at all. But it's been really relaxed.
It's great. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wrap up. I know you've got a long drive ahead of you. I'm
Awesome.
really grateful for you for sitting down.
No,
and
thanks so much, man. It's been
having
great
a chat.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a
So I
pleasure.
did plug your interval podcast. Could you give some people some links of where they might go to check you out?
Yeah, so the interval is available on most podcast streaming platforms. So on Apple Podcasts, anchor.fm/Tom Sands Guitars. Otherwise, search the interval on your podcast provider.
Instagrams, Tom_Sands
_guitars or Daisy Tempest. Daisy _Tempest.
Daisy _Tempest.
TomSansGuitars.com. Find us on Facebook, YouTube as well. Just search Tom Sands Guitars.
I look forward to seeing some more content from you very soon.
Thank you.
Yeah, we look forward to making it.
Thanks for sitting down with me, folks.
Cheers.
And you.